19th century. He voted for the Energy Policy Act, something that McCain actually voted against, wherein he gave tax breaks and subsidies to oil companies at a higher rate than the subsidies and tax breaks for alternative energy. It was interesting because when questioned about this later on, there was a newspaper in Chicago that called him on it and said, you know, you're dishing out oil welfare. His campaign cited the fact that there was going to be $100 million generated in new taxes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and because of that, this is why Obama had done that. Well, the problem with the argument was that these new taxes were going to be generated over the span of more than a decade, and you have to judge that against, we're talking about tax breaks and subsidies in the billions of dollars, not 100 million. We're talking $4.3 billion to nuclear power, $2.8 billion for fossil fuel production. So at some point you just have to ask yourself, what is the strategy? And it appears that the strategy has largely been one of capitulation. It's largely been one to come to you at election time and to say, oh my God, the Republicans are so bad. They're taking away your civil liberties. They're sending, they're keeping us in a war. Can you believe how outrageous this is? And guess what? It's all Ralph Nader's fault. Okay? But this doesn't work. And if you look at what happened in 2000, there were two problems with that election. There were many problems, but two that could be fixed fairly easily. One is that we allowed the winner of the contest to not get the most votes. I mean, that's pretty simple, right? Gore had more of a popular vote than Bush in the contest. But the second problem is a more significant one, and that is that we're allowing the winner of the contest not to have the majority of the vote. They're not getting 50% plus one. And we're satisfied with that in our democracy. But it's that problem that keeps any third party emerging that wants to expand the political discourse to a place outside of this very narrow place. So what should it be? Well, you can have a runoff and make the winner have over 50% of the vote. Or you could do what we did in San Francisco. I was the chief proponent of a measure that will allow you, when you go to the ballot box, to rank your choices. Your first choice, your second choice, your third choice. And then that way it would be incredible, wouldn't it, if we were the members of a political party that lost the presidency because a quote-unquote minor and trivial candidate like Ralph Nader keeps running for office and he's just bothering us. But somehow we lost the presidency, and 8 years later, we haven't done anything to mandate a majority election so that a contest cannot be spoiled. And so, have you ever noticed that the Democrats who invoke Ralph Nader's name don't bother to mention that Ross Perot did the same thing to the Republicans? And Bill Clinton, a governor of Arkansas with no foreign policy experience whatsoever, got elected with 42, 43% of the vote, lower percentage than our current president got in 2000, but you never hear about it. Nobody complains about it. And do you ever hear that in the last 100 years in our politics, we've had numerous presidents elected without getting 50% of the vote? It goes back 1912, Woodrow Wilson wins a contest because two Republicans split the vote. He serves 2 terms. He and Clinton have the lowest percentages of the century, 42%, 43% of the vote. If you're not working to fix it, then it would seem to me, in the legal terms, we say you have unclean hands. You don't have standing to now come and make an argument to us that you can't vote for who you want because this thing is going to happen. Okay, so what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to say, well, the Democrats aren't working on change. And it's either, I'm supposed to conclude it's either purposeful or it's accidental. Well, accidental, they lost the presidency, that would even get the Democrats to wake up. So if it's purposeful, aren't you rewarding them when you vote for their candidate, even though you prefer candidates articulating something else? I mean, aren't you in effect saying, I'm not going to even ask